Here in the middle of the jungle of central Kalimantan is the home of one of the endemic species of Indonesia, namely orangutan. And orangutan has a really great important roles in our lives. Very important for our ecosystem because it protects the ecosystem of the forest. But they are endangered. Let's go explore orangutan.
Kalimantan, the island covered in a stretched-out forest when viewed from the skies. Situated in the equator line, Kalimantan is a region that receives a great amount of intense sunshine and rainfall. This results to the high productivity of vegetation in the tropical rainforest of Kalimantan. It can be seen from the various types of flora and fauna, also the large number of population residing in the island.
One of the largest tropical forests in the world is found here in Kalimantan, Indonesia. A large of biodiversity is found here, the location where I am at right now, to be exact in the central Kalimantan. One of them is the orangutan, which is categorized as the great apes. Through this journey, we will explore about orangutan, to be exact, in the Lamanda Wildlife Reserve, Central Kalimantan.
Although Kalimantan is a region that is famous for its large forest resources, but the wealth of the island is decreasing every year due to the high rate of deforestation. In the current modern life, deforestation or the loss of forest areas and its ecosystem happened when massive development expansions begins in the island's inlands. One of the species that is extremely affected by the loss of forest areas, especially in Kalimantan, is the orangutans.
Here in the middle of the jungle of central Kalimantan is the home of one of the endemic species of Indonesia, namely orangutan. And orangutan has a really great important roles in our lives, but they are endangered. So let's go explore orangutan.
Large trees, leaves, and abundant fruits in the forest becomes the best place to call home and food storage for the orangutan, the great apes that are currently on the threat of extinction. Mornings in the forest of Kalimantan is always welcomed with a fun routine by species who live there. Orangutans are ready to start their day. Sela, for example. This morning, she was awakened from her sweet dream with her third daughter, Silver, who is still a baby. No wonder that some of the orangutans' behaviors are similar to humans. It is because orangutans and humans have 97% DNA similarity. At 3 months, Silver is already moving actively. Her instinct as a forest explorer can be seen from an early age. But wandering too far will make her mother worry. Unlike humans, Sella will breastfeed her young for a relatively long period of time. Orangutans will breastfeed their babies as long as 7 years. This is why the breeding of orangutans is slow, with one baby every time they give birth. Orangutans will stay in the same nest together with their young until they're 2 years old, or until their baby could live independently, could feed by their own, and make their own nest. The parent orangutan, however, will also build the nest not so far from their teenage young, so that the parent could closely monitor their offspring. 2 of Sella's children, who are much older, Sonny and Sakura, are seen tagging along with their mother, Sella. Orangutans are a type of arboreal species that are highly dependent on trees as a home or feeding ground. With their long arms stretched, orangutans are able to reach the food like fruits, leaves, and also swing freely from one tree to another. Their feet can also grip trees so strongly to support their bodies.
Besides plants and also fruits, orangutans also consume insects. Insects inside one of these, inside the trees. Orangutan tries to live inside their habitat. It's in the forest and jungle, and there's a lot of their food that they can consume. There's a lot of them here.
The male orangutan's calls, or also known as the long call, could be heard from this location. The sound could be heard when the male orangutans feel threatened. Not long after that, the male will show his strong figure. This is Carlos. The male orangutan has twice the body posture than the females. The weight of an adult male orangutan could reach up to 90 kilograms with a height of 1.25 to 1.5 meters. Meanwhile, the adult female orangutan weighs 30 to 50 kilograms with a height of 1 meter. The dominant male orangutan is usually the strongest. With such posture and physical looks like this, makes him to have full power over his colony.
You could see behind me is one of the largest male orangutan in this forest. It is called the king of orangutan here. And one characteristic of the male orangutan is the cheek pad. You could see his cheek pad.
With the night approaching, Sela will be busy finding a new location for her new nest. She could move to a new nest 7 times a day. For Sela, the safety and comfort of her baby is the most important. The power of love and affection could be seen clearly for the future of the Borneo's forest. Not only found in their original habitat, but unlucky orangutans are being forced to give up their real habitat and leave from the forest and their congress, forced to live inside a cage. Even though a law that protects the well-being of orangutans exists, but people continue to violate such law. Hunting, trading, and even making orangutans as their pets. Legal violation actions, evacuations, and returning them back to their habitat in the forest is the only way to save orangutans. For Bumi, today is one of his best days. 4 years ago, Bumi was rescued by the Wild Animal Rescue Team of the Central Kalimantan Natural Resources Conservation Center. Bumi was rescued from a resident who turned him as a pet since he was 2. Living with humans for a year made his ability to live in nature decreased. Bumi had to take part in a series of reintroduction process for ex-captive orangutans so that he could live as what he is supposed to be living in the wild. For this process, the government partnered with a non-governmental organization that focused on wildlife protection.
Jongkok sedikit. Oke, 1, 2, 3. Mundur.
The adaptation process of the orangutan in the location where they are released takes time until the ex-captive orangutans are willing to go into the forest and feed themselves and make their own nest. Choosing the location to release the orangutans is not an easy decision to make. There are several criteria that should be met so that these orangutans could live like they should be, free in the wild. Other than food availability, the forest's location should also be safe and free from humans to avoid conflicts to happen again between these protected animals and people. Not all orangutans evacuated by the rescue team are able to follow the reintroduction process, especially orangutans who have lived as pet animals for a long period of time with humans. Unwilling to take any risk, the orangutans that have lost their ability to live in the wild in the forest will never be released back to its real habitat, as it could only danger the orangutans themselves.
Sebenarnya nggak ada patokan sih umur berapa itu orangutan bisa dirilis atau pantas untuk dirilis. Pertama, orangutan itu harus bisa bikin sarang. Yang kedua, bisa mengenali pohon pakan. Yang jelas pertama mungkin observasi ya dari tingkah lakunya. Apakah dia udah cukup liar atau tidak bergantung pada manusia. Terus yang kedua, yang jelas pemeriksaan rutin. Pemeriksaan rutin ini kami lakukan tiap bulan. Jadi itu meliputi pemeriksaan klinis, kurang lebih seperti itu. Terus ada pemeriksaan penunjang seperti pemeriksaan di laboratorium supaya kita bisa tahu nih orangutan ini sehat waktu mau dirilis. Karena kalau sakit ya pasti dia akan mempengaruhi populasi di hutan sih Mbak, kalau membawa satu agen penyakit gitu ya.
The Lamandau Wildlife Reserve in Pangkalanbun of Central Kalimantan becomes one of the best locations to release the orangutan, Pongo pygmaeus subspecies Urumbi.
Suaka Marga Satwa Lamandau adalah merupakan selain sebagai lokasi habitatnya orang utan, dia juga melakukan kegiatan reintroduksi maupun kegiatan soft release orang utan. SM Lamandau bisa dikatakan aman dari kegiatan resisten terhadap konflik orang utan dengan manusia karena barriernya adalah merupakan das, ada das Lamandau maupun das Arut Selatan. Sehingga bisa dikatakan konflik antara orang utan dan manusia sangat jarang terjadi.
All parties are working tirelessly with preservation efforts, including assessing the life of orangutans. One of the labs that observes and conducts research on orangutans is at Tanjung Puting National Park in Pangkalanbun of Central Kalimantan. Not only act as a conservation area that provides a regional ecosystem, the Tanjung Puting National Park also acts as a relocation site for orangutans, which is suitable for research and tourist destination.
So behind me is the feeding process of orangutan in the Tanjung Puting National Park ecotourism, which attracts the tourists to see how the orangutan interact with each other and also how they feed themselves and also their children. To be noticed is that the feeding process is the process for the ex-captive orangutan so that it could be their nutritional supplements. So it's only done once a day because besides that, they should be trained to be able to feed themselves in the wildlife, in the forest. But we need to keep silent while looking at them so that we will not disturb them. So keep silent.
Taman Nasional Tanjung Puting ini merupakan rumah bagi satwa liar, terutama orangutan, bekantan, termasuk juga reptil, buaya, dan termasuk juga beruang madu. Di sini juga ada. Dan kita berupaya untuk melestarikan jenis-jenis yang terancam punah ini. Caranya gimana ya? Caranya dengan melakukan kegiatan-kegiatan untuk mendukung perbaikan ekosistem dan habitat dari orangutan itu sendiri. Seperti misalkan pemulihan ekosistem, kemudian kita juga melakukan kegiatan perlindungan pengamanan kawasan, kemudian juga kita melakukan identifikasi jenis-jenis pakan yang harus kita perkaya di lokasi Taman Nasional Tanjung Puting ini sehingga mendukung kehidupan dari hidupan liar yang ada di kawasan ini.
Various empowerment programs are also performed that enables the communities to no longer depend on forests as a source of livelihood. This includes raising the awareness of people on the importance of the forest and its ecosystem.
Jujur dari saya pribadi, dulunya adalah ex tambang sama illegal logging juga, tapi pelan-pelan kita menyadari ini adalah penghancuran hutan. Dan pada akhirnya kita sadar bahwa hutan ini sangat penting bagi masa depan, terutama untuk anak cucu kita lah. Jadi ya pelan-pelan saya ingin merubah diri menjadi lebih baik untuk membayar hutang saya. Apa yang setelah saya lakukan adalah gimana sih menanam pohon, restorasi ya, reboisasi. Jadi manfaatnya itu adalah di mana hutan yang dulunya gundul dan sekarang kita bisa melihat itu hijau kembali. Bahkan kita sendiri bisa mengambil hasil dari apa yang kita tanam.
Forests in the tropical area have the ability to absorb water from the precipitation process and having the sea as its storage. If the forest is protected, the river flow areas will also be preserved, and this will result in the community welfare, especially those around the forest.
Ancaman yang terbesar saat ini memang adalah alih fungsi atau adanya kegiatan-kegiatan yang mengakibatkan berkurangnya tempat bermain, tempat mencari makan, tempat dia melakukan berkembang biak itu. Kemudian jangan lupa atau jangan disepelekan adalah bahwa orangutan ini berada juga di luar kawasan hutan, berada di luar kawasan konservasi. Bahkan survei mengatakan dari teman-teman Forina, Forum Orangutan Indonesia, itu 68% populasi orangutan berada di luar kawasan. Sehingga itu perlu menjadi perhatian baik secara formal maupun informal, jejaring-jejaring untuk mengetahui di mana tempat-tempat atau kantung-kantung atau meta populasi orangutan yang berada di luar kawasan, yang perlu mendapatkan perhatian dan penyelamatan.
Orangutans are special because they're the basic species for conservation. The loss of orangutans reflects the destruction of hundreds of species of flora and fauna in the tropical rainforest. Forest and orangutans are two valuable assets. It is no wonder that orangutans act as one of Indonesia's animal wealth.
Orangutan is a species that acts as a seed disperser to help regenerate the trees and plants on the forest. It helps to preserve our ecosystem. That is why preserving the habitat of orangutan is equal to preserving our lives. Monica Conado, TVRI World.